This is something I want to talk about because we see a ton of home service businesses going into this referral trap, and this is quite honestly for your sake. I'm not going to do a lot of drawing, but I want you to just listen to me really quickly. Put this on 1.25 or put this on 1.5, I don't care. A lot of home service businesses get into this referral trap, and let me possibly explain your situation. You started your business, you've got a lot of referrals, you started with referrals, or you started with like door knocking or whatever you did, but now all you're relying on is referrals. You've got no one really canvassing. Your sales guys show up to referrals and that's kind of it. There's nothing outside of that because referrals know you, they close like 80%. They trust you, they close 80%. They usually have the budget for it, and it's just all around the easiest person to work with. And if you're currently in the situation where all you're relying on is referrals to get through everything and make the business run, then I want you to just listen to me really quickly. Oftentimes, what we see is companies that do rely on referrals, rely on just a little bit of marketing or door knocking, canvassing, and then you slowly start growing with referrals. What we eventually see is someone breaks off of that company or someone else in that area opens up and they start marketing, they start canvassing. Everyone knows them. And all of that hype you had with all the referrals that you were growing and growing, that other person takes everyone's attention. And what ends up happening in that situation is you start going down. All your referrals start going down because they start going to this other person. You're just sitting around now waiting for the phone to ring because that's just kind of how you've always done it. You've done it like that for the past 3 years. Why would the phone stop ringing now, right? But you're wrong, because eventually the phone does stop ringing because that other person does catch everyone's attention. And I remember, I can tell you this example vividly, like it was yesterday, but it was like 5 months ago. We had spoken with a roofing company, and by the way, we work with roofers and remodelers, stoymedia.com, roofers, remodelers, all home service businesses, but this home service business installed roofs, and they were in Washington. They were in like a very small town in between two really big mountains in Washington. And their company had, I think it was like 20 or 30 people. And 3 years ago, they had done a ton of SEO. They were ranking #1 in their area for every single keyword in this small town in Washington. And 3 years ago, they fired their SEO guy. 3 years later, which was a couple months ago when we spoke with them, about a year before we spoke, so like you can imagine, 3 years ago they fired their SEO guy. 2 years later, one of their employees started their own roofing company, and then 1 full year later they spoke with us, okay? So in about 1 year, he ended up taking all of the keywords, he ended up growing way past them. Mind you, this person broke off of their company. He ended up growing way past them. And what ended up happening with this initial company that was ranking #1 3 years ago, their referrals started going down because everyone started going to this new guy, and their revenue started going down. And what ends up happening, this is that trap, because after a certain amount of time, obviously with less referrals, less jobs, you start making less money, right? We can imagine how that works. You have less jobs. Anyways, what ends up happening is now the less jobs you have, the less money you even have for marketing, for canvassing, for doing any sort of outreach to get new clients. And in that situation, this is the trap. When you start going down, you start saying, oh, I need to figure this out. I need to fix this now. But what ends up happening is you don't have enough money to hire a marketing person anymore. I mean, we offered something, I think at the time it was just SEO. We gave them an SEO package and we offered it to them, very reasonable, with a free month attached to it because we wanted to help them because they were rapidly declining and they just couldn't do it. Even if it was free, they just couldn't do it because even afterward, they couldn't afford any sort of monthly payment that they used to pay, by the way. They used to pay more, or we believe it was like around or more what we were charging them 3 years ago. So 3 years later, they now can't afford that, and the company's declining. The website doesn't look that great, which in all honesty, their competitor's website looked a lot better because they had been investing into marketing. They had been investing into web design. And as their company started going down, they couldn't afford marketing anymore. And so what do you do in that situation? Well, for them, they just ended up doing nothing. And that's the referral trap that I'm trying to talk about. Many home service businesses get to a certain point where the company's declining because referrals just aren't working that much, and they can no longer afford marketing anyways. So unless the owner does it, which at that point it's quite risky because you kind of have to know how to market, and marketing on meta ads or doing meta ads or Google ads just isn't easy. And so in that situation, you're trapped. You can't afford marketing and you're declining. So all you have to do is sit there and wait. And what you can do, this is the solution. This is why Stoy Media exists, and this is why I'm making this video for your sake. Invest in marketing before your referrals start drying up. And you don't know when your referrals will start drying up. So invest now. Invest now in marketing, because soon, I'm telling you, for your own sake, there will be a point where the referrals will start going down. No company, very few companies compound and become very, very large or get to wherever they want to be with just referrals. Sure, I mean, I guess you could become the referral beast, but that's going to take like 40 years. Like, don't get me wrong, you could shortcut that by putting yourself out there. The reason we are here, the reason why I'm making this video is because there will be a point where the referrals will start going down, because there's just a lot of competition in home service businesses. Everyone realizes how good it is. You can charge a lot and you make a lot. So you understand what I'm trying to say. And so please invest into marketing before your referrals dry up, because unfortunately, it won't happen tomorrow. That's what I'm trying to make this clear. It won't happen tomorrow. It may not even happen in 2026. It may happen 2 years from now. But 2 years from now, when you are now only paying yourself $50,000 a year, when you're making less than your laborers, and you're under all this financial pressure because of all the projects, you're not going to be able to give up $3,000, $5,000 a month, because that's all you make. That's it. And so you're under all this financial pressure because if you screw up a job, you have to go fix it, and you may lose money on that. Not only that, you're also making around what the laborers are making or your project manager is making, if you even have one anymore. And so I'm trying to just make this clear. Invest while you can, because unfortunately, some companies get to a point where they cannot. And when you cannot, and you aren't going to be able to run the ads yourself, you get into this problem, because now you're trapped in golden handcuffs to the company. And when the company goes out of business, you either need to start another one, or I don't know. So just for your sake, stoymedia.com. You can either call us, there's going to be a scheduling link in the description. Just reach out to us and book a call for your sake, please.